G'day everyone, it's Michael here with Brody, and we're doing a little video introducing the book of Job for term 3, our teaching series. So Brody, you can kick us off. You've studied Job before while you're at Bible college. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you loved about Job?
Yes, I looked at Bible college, and when I was there, one of the things I loved about Job was how complicated it was. Because I liked the challenge. It felt like a real challenge trying to work out, is this character right when he's saying this thing? What is the big idea of Job? How does it all fit together? All that kind of stuff. I liked the challenge when I was at college. Kind of now, a bit later on, I think I appreciate the complexity for a different reason. I appreciate it because Job is not giving you easy answers. It's all about suffering, but it's not just saying, here's the answer. It's actually acknowledging that suffering is complicated and hard, and it's good to take your time and wrestle with it.
Yep.
What are you looking forward to this term, studying Job?
I'm looking forward to digging into Job deeply, which is not something I've done at length before. I didn't get to do it at Bible college like you did, and I don't think I've ever spent a term working through it at church either. So I'm really looking forward to that. But especially because I think as I've gotten a little bit older, which one day you'll understand, Brody, what I've come to realise is that no one in life escapes suffering. It doesn't matter whether you're Christian, non-Christian, everyone suffers. And the more I speak with people who are older, the more stories you hear about what they've gone through and they've seen others go through. This world is full of tragedy and storms and hardship. And so I'm excited to read Job, not just as a kind of a theological exercise, but how does it land and help us in our lives, in our walk with Jesus?
And Job is going to be really helpful for that, because it's not just academic. It is actually engaging with someone who's personally suffering and struggling, crying out to God in his suffering.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, in that light then, do you want to tell us a little bit about who Job is?
Yeah, we really don't know who Job is. There's kind of no introduction. Well, there's an introduction, but there's no context to Job and to the book. We do know that he's a real man because other parts of the Bible reference Job as a person, and you can see that a couple of different places. The kind of the way that Job reads the book, it seems to fit with kind of the patriarch times of the patriarchs, so around Abraham's time or between Noah and Moses. That's what we might guess, but in the end it doesn't really matter, because actually it stands alone as an exploration of suffering in God's world, and we can read it as Christians today.
And I think one of the keys as well is that he is one of God's people. He's a righteous person, and so that helps us, doesn't it, that this is our book to read, because like Job, we are in relationship with God, and so it helps us to think through those bigger questions. Yeah,
Job is, we're told a few times, he's blameless and upright. It's not that he's sinless, so it's realistic about that. He acknowledges the sins of his youth and that kind of thing. And so really he is just like us, isn't he? Justified on the basis of Jesus, as we've seen in Romans, but in God's sight, blameless and upright because of him.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us the purpose of the book? It's a big book. What's the heart of it?
Yeah. You might think in a book about suffering, which Job clearly is, it's kind of the book about suffering in some ways. You might think that its purpose is to give us an answer for why bad things happen to good people, or why suffering comes along, or why innocent people can suffer. The thing is, there's no simple answer that's given. In fact, when God appears on the scene after all of Job's questioning and the debates with his friends and all of these things that he's experienced, God finally speaks, and he gives 2 big speeches to Job, and in those, God doesn't deign to give an answer for why the suffering happens. We as readers, we know a little bit more because we get the kind of introduction and the last bit, which give us some context, but Job, he never finds out. His friends never know. And there isn't a simple answer that's given. But instead, the book of Job, it helps us to see how we should respond when suffering comes.
Yes.
And so Job, he cries out to God. He maintains his innocence, but he cries out to God, and sometimes in ways that feel a little bit uncomfortable to us. At times he might even go over a line, but there's something there in seeing the way that he always comes to God in his suffering and in his cries of anguish of what's going on. And so really helpful for us to see how we should respond to suffering, how we should care for others as they're going through suffering, that kind of thing.
So not all the answers to suffering, but how to respond well as Christians to suffering. Again, big book, 42 chapters. Do you want to give us a brief overview of how it fits together as a book?
Yeah,
how
sure.
we're going to tackle it this term?
Yeah, that's right. There's, as you say, 42 chapters. We're not doing what some people have done, which is spend 40 years just going verse by verse through Job non-stop.
Wow.
That's a big task.
That's suffering.
No, we're doing 7 weeks in Job. There's a few movements in Job. The first one is chapters 1 and 2 of Job, which are a narrative section. They tell the story of Job and this great man who's blameless, upright, and wealthy. But they tell us what happens to him, and they give us an insight into kind of the heavenly side of things as that goes down. Then that follows with a series of speeches from chapters 3 to 27, speeches between Job, and he has 3 friends who come and try to comfort him. They do a pretty shocking job, because actually in the end they end up blaming Job for the suffering that he's experiencing. In their theology, if he's suffering, it's because God is judging him for something that he's done. And so there's this cycle of speeches. 3 times they go around where one of them will speak, then Job will respond, one of them will speak, Job will respond. Each of them has 3 goes at that.
Yep.
And towards the end it kind of just falls apart, and they reach a bit of a stalemate. Chapter 28 is when there's this beautiful interlude, a poem on wisdom.
Kind of take a breather, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. And it kind of does stand alone a little bit. It's right at the center of the book, and it marks this turning point, I think, in what's going on. It's this poem about wisdom, and it points us to finding wisdom with God, and how God alone can find wisdom. That's chapter 28. And then after that, there's 3 more monologues. Job finishes his speeches off with one last one. Then Elihu comes on the scene. He's a new guy who kind of arrives.
The young whippersnapper.
Yeah, an angry man as well. He's very upset, both at the friends, because they have not managed to put Job in his place, and at Job himself, because he wants to defend God's honor, really. And so he thinks that Job hasn't treated God the way he should. And so he speaks up. And then we get a speech from Job in the end. 2 speeches from Job, from chapters 38 to 41. Sorry, did I say Job or
You
God?
said Job.
I meant God. Yeah.
I was thinking, that's not quite right.
No,
it's not.
Yeah, well, we worked it out. Anyway,
God. God's saying to Job, sit down and let me tell you some things.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's quite majestic.
Yeah.
Those speeches.
Yeah.
They're quite powerful. And then at the end, we get a little bit of, we leave the poetry behind, a little bit more narrative again, which just wraps up the story. And we see Job, he repents of what he's done, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, God affirms that Job has spoken what's right about him. So there's a tension there that's going on.
Yep.
God also puts the friends in their place. He says that they haven't done the right thing. In fact, Job needs to offer some sacrifices for them, because
they've got it wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's a big book, lots and lots to take in. What are some of your what are your top 2 tips as we read the book of Job?
Yeah. The first one is, as we read through, like I said, there's lots of people who speak, and there's kind of a lot going on. A good principle to keep in mind is that you shouldn't trust what anyone says unless they're God or the narrator.
Okay.
So
which is not because we can't trust what the Bible says.
No, that's right.
But we can't trust what the characters in Job, the people in Job, say.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just because it's in the Bible doesn't mean it's right. And actually, sometimes those characters, they get things wrong, but it's there to teach us still.
Yep.
So we need to pay attention to what they say, just carefully.
Yep. So the Bible records their words correctly, but what they say is wrong.
Yeah.
So be careful.
Well, it's either faulty or sometimes it's just misapplied.
Yep.
So they might say something that's true, but it's not true in this instance. They actually don't know the full story. God does. So we listen to what he says. In particular, he sets them straight in the end.
Yep. And what's your second top tip?
The other one is we need to remember to read this as Christians. Job points us to Jesus, and he does it in a couple of ways. We'll see that as we go through and work through each section. But 2 key ways. One is Job himself is kind of a picture of Jesus. He is an innocent man who is humble, he suffers, and in the end he's vindicated. We see that right at the end. And that's exactly the trajectory that Jesus follows. Jesus in Philippians 2, he gives up his what's there with God, his glory with God. He becomes a man and humbles himself even to the cross, very lowly, and yet then God vindicates him.
Exalted him to the highest place.
Exactly right, yeah. So there's a pointing us to Jesus there in Job's very life. But Job himself, he looks ahead to someone like Jesus. He's written before Jesus, and so he doesn't know the details, but he has a hope in a mediator, someone who can represent him before God. Because in his suffering, he knows he needs someone. He can't bring his case before God. How could he do that? He wants someone who can stand between him and God and mediate between them. And we know that's who we have in Jesus.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you're looking forward to term 3 in Job. I certainly am. I think Brodie is. And we'll let you get back to your growth groups or whatever it is you're doing. See ya.
Catch up.